welcome. I will try to address some points that Will Turtle and other climate denialist uh, people do give as an argument against climate change. And I am very surprised that Will Turtle went in that direction. Um, as you know, I am against any technologies. Um, I don't support renewables or fossil fuels either because I know that if you make a sudden big change in the environment, you disrupt the balance, and both of them would be destructive. And I don't know the point. I mean, I don't understand the point why they are still defending fossil fuels. Some people. It seems that Will Turtle is doing that right now. It's really absurd to me, and I will try to address some points. So, for example, let's take the CO2 is a minuscule part of the atmosphere, so we can ignore. So it doesn't contribute to global warming. Well, from his own presentation here, we can take the values, and I have prepared a presentation, and I will show you in a simplified way with a simplified model how CO2 with these numbers that are given here, how it contributes, if it is significant or not. But before doing that, we should realize that Will Tuttle was basically presenting more or less this paper here that is uh, uh, two, written by two scientists basically that says that climate change is a hoax. And one is basically Richard Lindzen. He has Alfred T. Sloan Professor title, and I check who is this. What is this title? Like who is Alfred A. Sloan? A.T. Sloan. And I'm thinking maybe it is related to this guy, General Motors um, director in the past, Alfred P. Sloan Jr. Big, as you know, General Motors. They were selling cars and stuff, and huge um, red flag. And the same guy, Richard Linsen, um, he has, um, it seems, ties to the Heartland Institute. And as you know, the Heartland Institute was promoting smoking cigarettes, etc. They were saying the second-hand smoking doesn't impact people negatively, etc. So it is the red flags are everywhere. As you can see, uh, the Heartland Institute was saying against smoking bans. They were lobbying against banning smoking, basically. And these guys have linked, at least this guy has linked and linked to the Heartland Institute, and another one is this guy, and who knows what type of links he had. I mean, just one is realizing one is enough. And now let's go to our um, presentation. That is basically the simple model that I just prepared to show that CO2 is not negligible. The effect of CO2 is not negligible given the numbers of Will Tuttle. So by his own numbers. Um, so let's go through it. Um, so when you listen to the video around 20-second minutes, it shows this figure here, and this is basically warming um, watts per meter squared. It's called uh, radiative forcing, how much extra energy we are getting by the increase of carbon dioxide concentrations in the atmosphere. It goes from 0 up to 1000 parts per million here, and we will just use these numbers to calculate how much actually CO2 is contributing to the temperature increases. And I will explain, very simple model. Right now the ppm is 428, and before the industrial revolution it was 280 parts per million in the atmosphere, carbon dioxide concentrations. So let's take these numbers here. Here 88.4% of the warming, uh, 88.4% increase uh, in basically warming corresponds to 30 watts per meter square. So given that, we can calculate when we go from 0 to 300 parts per million, it will be 84.8% change in the radiative forcing, and it will correspond to about 29 watts per meter square. When we go from 300 to 400, it corresponds to 3.6 percentage change. Of course, it's a logarithmic um, um, change. That means as you increase the carbon dioxide concentrations, the warming decreases. It's true, but it is not insignificant, as I will show. So it corresponds to 1.222 watts per meter squared. And if we keep increasing from 400 to 800, this corresponds to 8.7% change, and it is about 3 watts per meter squared extra added heating. And what does it mean in terms of temperature? So let's have a simple model, ignoring the climate feedbacks and assuming that sudden increase in carbon dioxide happened. So let's say from 0 to 300 ppm, sudden increase. And we will examine how the system behaves, how the temperature increases initially, not towards the equilibrium state. So I will use a very basic heat equation. mc delta T is equal to energy, right? So people who have some education, chemistry, etc., they already know this equation. And it's a little bit more added, and the right side is basically energy, and energy per time in this case. Um, and you can screenshot it and just examine the values. I mean, the mass of the atmosphere, specific heat capacity of air, etc. Very simplified model, and the surface area of Earth, etc. And uh, some portion of the heat is also absorbed by oceans, and it's given that 90%, about 90% of the heat is absorbed by oceans. So given this, and given the forcings that we just calculated from the graph, we can derive that, simplify, put everything, all the numbers, and simplify this heat equation, and get the value that change in temperature per year is equal to the radiative forcing times 0.311. Now let's calculate one by one. What does it mean for concentration changes? So let's say from 0 to 300 ppm, we put the forcing for this, which was about 29. About 29 times 0.311, it gives us 8.95 Celsius decrease Celsius temperature increase per year. So if there were no carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and we increase the carbon dioxide concentration from 0 to 300, initially the temperature will rise almost 9 degrees Celsius every year. Each year 9 degrees Celsius you will feel. So it will be incredibly fast warming. So this just very simple model and argument debunks the argument that they were saying carbon dioxide is negligible. It's negligible portion of the atmosphere. It is negligible, when it comes to the mass, but it's not negligible when it comes to the heating effect. Just like the salt concentration in our blood is negligible, right? But if it increases uh, in small amounts in absolute terms, still you can you can die. You can have some systems can be sensitive to small changes. So let's also see what will happen from 300 to 400 degrees Celsius. If we went suddenly from 300 to 400 immediately, at the beginning 0.38 degrees Celsius increase every year, not in total, every year you will see this increase. So again, it is not negligible. And if we keep increasing from 400 to 800, you will see about 0.92 Celsius increase each year, not negligible. So with the numbers given by Will Tuttle, you can just see that carbon dioxide is, despite the oceans absorbing most of the heat, is still can have huge impact. Of course, this Celsius is initial, so eventually as the atmosphere heats up, temperatures go up, the atmosphere radiates more heat into uh, the the space, basically eventually stabilizing at a higher temperature, so it doesn't keep increasing, right? But this simple model, very simple, just shows how much carbon dioxide can have effect on temperature. Of course, I'm not a climate scientist. However, I was wondering, in simple terms, can I understand the power of carbon dioxide as a heating gas? Because given these radiative forcings, watts per meter squared, and when you do these calculations, very basic, you just realize that it can have a great effect in temperature. I don't know what happened to Will Turtle, but he is dead wrong in uh, uh, this climate change thing. And the report that they just share, I mean, this is very similar to that figure. I mean, how the carbon dioxide basically loses its potency at higher concentrations as a global warming gas due to so-called saturation effect. Here they show how carbon dioxide changes and temperature changes. Okay, we already know that there are other factors that is affecting temperature other than carbon dioxide. It doesn't prove that the carbon dioxide is not the factor, is not a factor. So this is not saying anything. These figures, and most of them, they are showing local temperature changes. They are showing medieval or little ice age, etc. These are um, local changes, medieval period, medieval warming period. This was a change in North Atlantic. So local temperature changes. And they are trying to compare this, trying to prove by looking at local changes, trying to prove that global warming is not happening. You need global data. Why are you sharing this report, for example? Why are you sharing local measurements? And this is very outrageous to me that they are saying carbon dioxide increases plant growth, etc., and trees absorb more. Well, it is measured. The carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is going up exponentially. It doesn't matter if the trees are absorbing or not. It seems that they are not absorbing enough, right? So you can't give that as an argument either. And the carbon dioxide uh, is being released from Amazon rainforest, for example. It became net carbon emitter because of deforestation. So when we say the forest will absorb, which forest? The forest that we cut down by using fossil fuels, energy from fossil fuels. I mean, it's crazy. And basically, um, you know, and they are even trying to justify the use of fossil fuels because half of the population depends on artificial fertilizers that are produced from fossil fuels. So, you know, we made a mistake. They say, let's keep doing it. It's just crazy. I mean, absurd. And please, I encourage Will Tuttle to reconsider his position on this issue and hopefully um, come to a sane conclusion.